All right, 93, 93, 93. Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. In this particular video, we will speak on, are you a chaos immortal? As this is the year of the chaos gods and goddesses. So for those of us who have been paying attention, and we have been seeing all these parallels of the giant snakes, serpents, or dragons. So whether we're talking about Babylon and the seven-headed beast or dragon, or we're talking about the great serpent Apep, or we're just talking about it from the perspective of this is the year of the dragon from the Chinese zodiac. All these bring us to a conclusion that a portal has been opened for the chaos beings to materialize, which may seem very strange because we may feel like we've been going through chaos for quite some time now. Because you can say, we're in a pretty unpredictable time. Nobody really knows what's going to happen tomorrow. You know, we're going to wake up and we have countries throwing bombs on each other, or are we going to wake up to a ceasefire? Are we going to wake up to love, or are we going to wake up to hate? So you can say things have been pretty unpredictable or chaotic, essentially the whole year, as this is the theme. So what this means for us as individuals is when it comes to your own darkness, when it comes to your own chaos, this is the time to purify it. Because if it's not purified, you can say it's going to be used against you. Your own darkness, your own chaos will begin to be used against you. And it's not because somebody is necessarily doing something. This is just what the planetary energies are calling for. So we're going beyond a person's agenda or what a particular society or group of people are trying to implement. We're just strictly speaking on what's going on in the stars. And this just so happened to be a time where, as we recently saw, this is the time of the blackened sun. The blackened sun, or the black sun, which we find, of course, in the clip-off, otherwise known as the tree of death, aka the Citra Aqua. So we begin to study things like the Citra Aqua to have a better understanding of not just what chaos is, but why it is necessary for it to exist. Why is it necessary for you to have a higher consciousness but also a lower consciousness? Because we all know we have a unconscious mind. We have a conscious mind, but we also have a unconscious mind. Why is it necessary that the unconscious mind exists, which is where all the nightmares, where your alter ego is? This is where essentially all of that chaotic energy is stored in the unconscious. But why is it necessary for that to even be a thing in the first place? Why is it necessary that when it comes to the chaos beings, you can say they manifest from the darkness? So this isn't really something you see with the physical eye. So when I say chaos beings, I'm not really speaking about things you see physically. This is more so things that you see in dreams, things that you see in astral travels, things that you see in meditation when you activate the Ajna chakra. So the question being, are you a chaos immortal? Meaning, do you come from the triple stages of darkness? And what I mean by that is the triple stages of darkness. Meaning this is before light. Meaning before light can come out of the darkness, it has to hit a triple black. So in other words, in order for the electrical energy to manifest from the magnetism, it has to go through 3 layers of darkness. And only when it goes through that 3rd layer of darkness does it get to that understanding, which we call light. The same thing happens with the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind, you can say it's 3 layers deep. So you got an upper level, a middle level, and a lower level. And those levels are determined based off of, you can say, a person's their dominant thoughts. That will determine which level that they're on unconsciously. So not just what level they're on consciously, but also what level they're on unconsciously. So chaos is within all of us, of course. It's just a matter of, are you willing to go into the triple blackness to discover your own light? Because your light is found in the triple black, as we call the blackened sun. So while the world is paying attention to the sun and waiting for something to come out the clouds or fall from the sky, you understand that all these things are occurring within. So you have to go beyond sanity. What I mean by going beyond sanity is whenever you're dealing with chaos, this is not really a thing that you can understand logically. That's the whole reason why it's called chaos. It can't be logically put into a box or put into a definition. It can't be properly defined. So that's why it's called chaos, because you can say it keeps changing form. Its form is not consistent. So because its form is continuously changing, we can't use logical tools to define what it is because it's going to fail. Because the moment you think you know what it is, it'll switch up on you. That's the nature of chaos. That's why the universe is so spooky, especially to the people that study these things. Is because the universe seems to have a form of intelligence. It's not just a bunch of random stuff, random rocks, cold rocks just spinning off in space. There seems to be an intelligence. The same way we would call it, you can say God, there's a higher intelligence. The reason we consider something higher as untangible, meaning like you can't see God, God is, you could say, a spirit or spiritual, it's not something physical. But it represents the light. Because when people think of God, they think about the light. When they think about a Jesus, they think about a light. They don't think about a darkness. But as we know, when you begin to study those Paulos, it introduces you to El Cristo Negro, which is the Christ in the underworld. So those dimensions are explored. It's only explored through, you can say, the more darker paths. So that's really the only difference between the lighter paths and the darker paths. It's not that they're disagreeing with the mainstream. They're just looking at the part that the mainstream doesn't want to see. Meaning the mainstream wants to see the Christ dead on the cross. The mainstream doesn't want to see Christ in hell and going through those trials and tribulations in order to resurrect. So even as important as they put the resurrection on Jesus, they still don't document his journey into the inferno. And the only ones that do is, again, the more darker paths that people will call left-handed. So for whatever reason, the darker paths tend to be more left-handed, which takes you into the triple darkness. And this is why they call these paths of initiation, because they are meant to transform you. So it's not about just having a mere experience. It's about it transforming your consciousness as a whole. That's what the paths are supposed to be doing. So it's not just you getting a feel of what they represent or what they do. It also should have a change. Because the more intimate you get with the principles of nature, the better you understand how to manipulate it. And the more you understand the manipulation of nature, you're basically trying to go from the light, because the light has already materialized. You're trying to take the light and take it back to the triple darkness. So essentially, you're working in reverse. So you're not starting at the triple black, you're starting at the light. Essentially, you're starting at consciousness. And then you're making your way to the unconscious, which is a journey. Because you have to go through initiation just to even comprehend what you're seeing. It's like seeing yourself as a monster. Because the unconscious mind, again, just represents you without restrictions, without barriers, like who you would be if you didn't have to shape and mold yourself in accordance to the rules and regulations of this world. that part of you exists, which many people would consider chaotic, because that's why that form of you has to be unconscious, because if that form of you was conscious, it would, who knows what would come from that. So essentially you have to go into the triple darkness to even comprehend your own unconscious mind, your own psyche, which is very dark. We can say these are the darker elements of human nature. So a chaos immortal, this has an understanding of the more primitive, primordial elements of human nature, without all of the gloss and extraness that we have put on top of it. So chaos just represents a change, constant change. And essentially that becomes your reality, which is the complete opposite of what most people will want. Most people want consistency. They want some type of stabilization, right? They want some type of consistency, something that's stable, something that's tangible, so on and so forth. The earth element. However, when we deal with chaos, when we deal with something that's constantly changing its form, you see we have to approach it differently. Now we can't approach it like a human being, because a human being wants to be comfortable. Chaos is trying to introduce you to several things at once, which may be uncomfortable. So it's a complete opposite, you can say, of our logical mind. However, the creative mind can navigate those twists and turns. As we called our child self, the child within, the pure part of yourself can navigate the chaos. Because the pure part of yourself doesn't even consider chaos chaos. It's the logical part of yourself that even looks at it strangely. The creative part of you is just looking at it for what it is. The left brain or the logical mind essentially casts spells to make us believe what things appear to be. But that's not really what it is. So essentially it's a bunch of illusions that people get caught up on. People get caught in the spells that people cast, or illusions. Because if you really look at, what's got people all in their feelings, it's somebody else's illusions. And the whole point is to not get in your feelings about somebody else's illusions. Because essentially that puts you in a position where you feel like it's out of your control. You don't have any control over what's going on. It makes it feel like it's out of your hands. But when you begin to initiate yourself directly into the chaos, and you work with chaos directly, now the things that may have seemed out of your hands or mysterious is like, now you just understand it for what it really is. Which is, there's a nature, there's a quality, there are principles, as we call laws of the universe, that exist, that must be followed at all times. And it's only through magic that you're able to bend and manipulate the law. So you're not necessarily breaking the law with magic, but you're damn sure bending the law and manipulating it. And that's all you really can ask for. As we call it in today's terms, influence. Like, everyone wants to be an influencer. Well, instead of worrying about influencing people, influence nature. Your own nature, your own chaos. Get to know your own chaos, because it's there. It's just not something that, it's not, you can say it's not friendly. It's like something that speaks a whole different language, and you got to attempt to decode what's being said. But that's with any dream. It's the same thing with dreams. It's the same thing with astral travels. You have to decode it. It's not obvious. And that's just the nature of chaos. Chaos isn't direct like light. See, light, a beam of light is like direct. But chaos is going to talk to you, you can say in code, in parables, make it paradoxal. So chaos makes things paradoxal. However, if you can read the omens and the signs, it unveils what's occurring, and then you can take advantage of it because you understand what message is trying to be conveyed. And that's why you can get it or grasp it, then nobody else will, because you had to go through a form of initiation or a process of peeling back the layers to even get what you got. Because it's not obvious. That's just not how chaos works. That's how light works. But when we deal with the nature of chaos, you can say there's many possibilities. It's not just one possibility, it's many possibilities. That's when the one becomes the none, when the one becomes the zero. So the chaos immortals just represents the energy of the zero. So while everybody else is trying to be number one, everybody else is trying to be the best, they're trying to, amplify their ego, all that's just the energy of the one, but they completely skipped over the zero level. It's supposed to be 0, 1, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's essential that you start within that womb. Just like the tarot starts at 0. The first major arcana card is the Fool, and the Fool is connected with the number 0. It don't start with 1, it starts with 0. Just to emphasize the importance of starting in that primordial womb and then developing yourself from those triple stages of darkness before you give birth to who and what you really are. So before you give birth to who and what you really are, you have to go through those triple stages of darkness, which is just like a second birth or a second coming, which they call it the second coming of Christ. Well, before you have a second coming, you got to make it through those hellfire. You got to make it through the inferno, which is just the various stages of your own unconscious mind. It's just a metaphor of your own unconscious mind. Are you willing to accept the things about yourself that you didn't even think was a part of you? And not only accept it, but also integrate it, make it an active principle. Not just something that you just close the door on, something that you actually learn to harness and manipulate. So essentially, this is another way of saying when you know how to harness and manipulate your own dark side, now you're able to produce light. Because you were not afraid to manipulate the dark, hence why you start with the 0 before you go to the 1. The 1 represents light. Well, before light, you have to have darkness, right? So before light is manifested, the light of the sun, you got to go through the darkness. And in that darkness, in that 0, everything is everything and nothing at the same time. And that's just the nature of chaos. You're dealing with the formless. You're dealing with the intangible, which is very hard to comprehend. Once you go beyond Asia, which is the first level of the tree of life, or the lowest level, once you begin to climb up the Jacob's ladder and you explore those other worlds of the Kabbalah, things become a lot more. Essentially, it ain't gonna be too many people around that's gonna follow those steps. Because that's just not what most people's intention is. Like I was saying before, most people's intentions start with money. They just trying to make a decent amount of money and just live a comfortable life. They're not trying to decode the mysteries of the Kabbalah, the mysteries of the universe. They just want to believe in God, and they're fine with that. They don't need to go no further than that. They're okay with that. So for those type of people, there is no need to go beyond the lowest level of the tree of life, the Kabbalah, which is Asia. There is no need to go into Yetzirah, Bira, or Atziluth. That doesn't do anything for them. Essentially, it would be like chaos to them. But to you, you're like, okay, well, this is what I've been waiting on. I need to go beyond the tangible into the intangible. Before I become a master of light, I have to become a master of the triple darkness. Before I get into my higher self, I have to learn how to tame my lower self. Before I understand or kill my ego, I have to have an understanding of my alter ego. Because an alter ego is what's going to replace the ego. It's not like you just kill the ego and now you just got this space or this void. It has to be replaced with something else. So that's why most people can't kill their ego, because they're not replacing it with something else. You have to replace it. So when you're integrating your alter ego, that's you replacing your ego. So that's how you actually destroy or kill your ego, or have an ego death, because you're integrating the alter ego into your consciousness. Which, the more you do that, the more it kills your ego, who you think you are, and you begin to become a more fuller version of yourself versus something, that was just on the surface. So essentially, the reason I asked the question, are you a chaos immortal? Because those are the only people who even have an interest in doing something like this. Because we know how the world is. The world just wants their bread. They just want their clout. They just want their fame. So this is all a thing that you receive in Asia. So rarely will you hear the world striving for anything beyond the tangible. And if they are striving for anything beyond the tangible, again, it's God. They're trying to they're just giving their all to God. But that's as far as it goes. They're not trying to decode no mysteries, to decode the language of fire, and get in tune with the ancestral currents. So these are things that we take interest in, because we are harnessing the chaos, and through harnessing the chaos, we're able to receive the things that simply doesn't make sense to anyone else. To them, it's chaos, but to you, it's everything that chaos represents, which is just the principles of nature. All of them, not some of them, all of them. You're just taking heed to the fullness of nature, because this is a part of nature. So the unconscious mind is a part of nature, just like the devil in the tarot. That's a part of nature. So we don't just have this God versus devil. Again, there is no God in the tarot. So that's just letting you know right there. It ain't this. This is no opposites fighting. That's just the story that they make. They try to make it more interesting. Got to be the good versus bad, but you need both. Just like you need the tree of life. There is no tree of life without the tree of death. So it's not like you can just wipe out the tree of death and the tree of life is just gonna exist. No, to kill one is to kill both. The same thing, like the alter ego is gonna always exist. It's just in the tree of death. So you're just going through your trials and tribulations through the tree of death just to learn your own alter ego. And through learning your own alter ego, it will begin to integrate in your consciousness, which then causes a change, an internal change. And this is essentially what we're doing here. So this is the theme of the whole year. By this being a 8-year, again, whether it's dealing with the dragon or the apep, these just represents energies of pure chaos. The most primitive, the most primordial force in the universe. or you could say the darkest elements of the universe. But those darkest elements also exist within us. So can you handle your own darkness? Because again, this is a year to really get a grasp of that. It's an 8 year. The 8 is dealing with the root chakra. Again, it's taking you to the planet Saturn. Saturn has an influence over all the other planets. So if you truly want to get a grasp of all your planets, you really got to go through Saturn first, which is a malefic current. You have to master the malefic current before you can even get the true benefits of the other planets. Because if you don't have a good relationship with Saturn, Saturn is going to make it hard for you to have a good relationship with any of the planets because Saturn is influencing all the planets. So when you know how to soothe your own Saturn, that's going to have an effect on all of your planets. And again, that's why you deal with the root chakra last versus dealing with the root chakra first. So it can be like everybody else starting at the root chakra and trying to make it to the crown. Or you can start at the crown and then make your way to the root. But that's essentially you going into the underworld. Because as we know now, there are chakras underneath the root chakra called the patala chakras. So you starting at the crown, that's you starting at the crown, going all the way into the underworld. So you're not stopping at the root chakra. So that's essentially why when they say you got to work from the root up, you're completely missing all of the patala chakras when you start at the root and go to the crown. But if you start at the crown and go all the way to the soles of your feet, now you're taking a full journey. So that's really why I say from the crown down, because that's the full journey. You're not taking the full journeys when your first level is the base of the spine. And you didn't do anything below that. So when you are willing to take that full journey, then you have a more full understanding of who and what you are from the light side and the dark side. And then you integrate them or mix them together because after all, this is about alchemy. The ultimate goal here is alchemy, to mix and combine things. Combinations, formulas, mixtures, spells. These are all the results of combinations, mathematical combinations. So that's what you're doing because the world is your laboratory. So every day you should be conducting experiments. And if you're not conducting experiments every day, then the world is essentially just happening to you because you're not putting up no resistance, which is basically your own will. If you want things to go your way, it's not just going to go your way because you want it to. Nature is giving you resistance. So the resistance or the malefic energy that nature gives you, you don't look at it as evil. You look at, okay, that's just energy of Saturn giving me the necessary resistance. Because if I can supersede that resistance, I can implement my will onto the world. I just have to supersede the resistance. And there's going to always be resistance. There's going to always be a person that says, no, you can't do that or you shouldn't do that. You're going to always face resistance until you can say you take the darker routes, you take the chaotic routes, and then you make it happen regardless in an unusual way. You didn't take the well-traveled path, you took the lesser traveled path, created your own path, and got unique results because of it. The world is your laboratory, so you should be getting unique results. So your results shouldn't even just be what the ancestors came to the conclusion. We got access to all this information. We should be coming up with new conclusions. We should be coming up with new formulas and combinations because we got access to all of it. So we should take it to the next level. Again, that's why I talk about cyber magic and technomancy. That's just us taking it to the next level because that's what we're supposed to be doing. But if we're still doing what the ancestors were doing, I'm like, oh, we're not moving like we're in the 21st century. So that's why I mention these things. Even when it comes to cryptocurrency, even that's a form of magic. All these things are magical and they fit together, but it doesn't seem that way until you really start to integrate with those cyber gods and goddesses. And then you go into the chaos. So to even understand the chaos, you got to go through the de- the digital deities, right? There are deities that exist in the cyber world or the digital world, as we call the internet, the World Wide Web. Deities exist in this, you can say, this astral space. The internet, like, is another form of the astral plane. So when you treat the internet the same way you would treat the astral plane, now you know what you're really doing here. But if you're unfamiliar with the astral plane and you don't know what you would do in those type of situations when you wake up while you're still dreaming, okay, well, what do you do with that? You got full control of your imagination. What do you do when those moments occur? And I'll leave that up for you to answer. And that's basically, short little sermon for the day. Just something to contemplate, something to ponder on. Until next time, 93, 93, 93. Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. Love's the law, love under will. We out.